My name is Samuel Baksh and my film is called Blood Farmers, and this is my opening sequence evaluation. To create a horror film, we researched the codes and conventions to help us get a good idea of what was needed to create a good opening sequence of our horror film. Also, we looked at an opening sequence from The Shining, which was posted on our group blog. The reason we had chosen this opening sequence is because, firstly, the music used in the opening is great, as it does come across quite creepy and scary, which is exactly what we wanted to give full effect to the audience to frighten them, as this is the key thing to achieve in horror movies. To create a horror movie, we needed to have some sort of killer, as this is usually the key thing in which makes up a horror movie to give it that horrifying effect. Our idea for the opening sequence was quite cliche of a storyline for a horror film, having a young girl walking through a forest by herself being attacked. Yet our film was quite different due to the use of music, which was very creepy and scary, and the good use of mise-en-scene, which was blood covered costumes and the deserted forest as the scenery. In the horror movies, a killer will always have some sort of trademark way of killing their victims. Therefore, we gave our character a jagged, long and thin piece of metal, almost like a knife. The reason we didn't use a knife is because this is a very common weapon to be used in horror movies. Also, the weapon we chose adds a little bit more of a gruesome effect, as it is just a piece of metal, showing the character will use anything to kill someone. The purpose of having an open sequence to a film is to give a little insight into the film, but not to give away too much, and this is exactly what we did, as we have shown there is a killer about, but he doesn't do anything yet, and this therefore makes the audience want to watch a little bit more and find out what happens. My film opening sequence shows how the media always use a young girl as a victim of a killer. I wanted to do the same and use an innocent young teenage girl as a victim of our killer character. The reasons being is that if the victim were to be a very large man who appeared as if he could defend himself from our killer, then the movie is likely to become an action film, as it will be a fight rather than an attack on a defenseless person. In my film piece, I had also decided to make the victim fall into the killer's trap, appearing to the audience as the victim being very ridiculous. The reasons being is that many other films do this, where a victim leads themselves into a trap without realising, whilst the audience can clearly see it. The production company I chose for the opening sequence was Universal Pictures. The reasons for this was because I knew from personal experience that they produce big box office movies, and I would want the film we created to be a big box office movie. Universal Pictures usually don't produce many horror films, but when they came around in the early 1900s, Universal made many horror movies. Some recent horror movies they have produced are films such as Stay Alive and Dead Silence. A distributor of my film would be a company who have distributed horror movies before, which have been a great success. Lionsgate, an example of this, they are a very large and well-known film distributor who have done films such as Saw, which all were successes. For my film, the target audience is people aged from 18 and over. The reasons being, it is set to be a gruesome horror film, which will not be suitable for people under the age of 18 to watch. As the film is a horror, it will appeal mostly to people who enjoy scary films and won't become too frightened, and therefore being put off from the film due to the content. I believe this film would appeal to many people, as most people enjoy horror films due to the suspense in the films, which is built up and gets people worrying and builds up that slight excitement. With my film opening sequence, I've tried to attract my audience through the use of fear. The reasons the audience are attracted is because fear through films can also bring excitement. One of the main things which builds up fear to an audience of a horror movie is that step in volume in which when a character steps into the frame. This usually makes an audience jump out of their seats. In Paranormal Activity, this happens many times during the film when we hear a loud banging noise to give us as audience a sense that someone is there, which gives a horrifying effect. When editing my openings, I found that non-linear editing allowed me to be very specific when inserting a cut in the footage, as I'm able to cut in between single frames. If I was to give advice, I would say to get cuts in the footage perfect and to not have one shot being cut and then the next shot going back slightly and being a few frames earlier, showing what has previously been shown in other shots but just at a different angle. The advantages of using software such as Final Cut Express allows the user to do many more effects to a clip as opposed to a program such as iMovie, which is for more basic editing where Final Cut can be used for a little bit more professional use. The disadvantages of using standard video cameras is that they pick up a lot of background noise such as cars passing by in the street, which is what we suffered with, therefore leading to having to delete the sound from parts of the video. If we wanted to avoid this problem originally, I realised I would have to have used a boom microphone. In my editing, I could have used more effects such as making scenes in black and white or give blurred effect to give an audience certain effects or perspectives of a character in the sequence. Also, I could have used more camera shots such as quick pans, shot reverse shot and close-ups. Reasons being, they could have all enhanced the quality of my opening sequence, as it would have been a wider range of camera shots than what I have already used. Having previously done the preliminary sequence before doing our film opening sequence has had a major advantage to our skills within filming and editing on Final Cut Express. Doing the preliminary sequence allowed me, the cameraman, to get using a video camera with a tripod and filming from different angles, seeing what is possible and what is not when filming. When practicing with the film, the preliminary sequence, I found it slightly difficult to get easy and smooth movement with the tripod, so therefore it allowed me to practice a little for a more professional camera movement when filming the opening sequence. Doing the preliminary sequence also helped me gain a few basic skills with Final Cut Express, which is the software in which I had used to edit the opening sequence, such as straight cutting and to move different shots around on the timeline to get things perfect for the viewing for the audience. The preliminary sequence also allowed my group to work better as a team, to have prepared for the film opening sequence, and also to organise times and dates in which when to film a bit easier as we began to learn each other's schedule.